Hi, I'm Jill Gilliland, president of Melnic, a APRN and PA recruiting company. And today we're going to talk about the impact of salary strategies on retention and recruitment for APRNs and PAs. So let's get this going. So if you would like to join our network and receive our abundant materials and resources for your career, not just job information, but information about roles, information about leadership, information about career development, then just text Melnic to 797979. So competitive salary strategies have to do with the combination of salaries and benefits. Today we're going to focus on salaries, but going to go over sort of the impact of benefits. And organizations that will all make a decision regarding how to increase salaries on an annual basis. On average, according to the Melnic 2020 salary guide, if you would like access to it as a hiring manager, just email me, jill@melnic.com, and I'll be happy to send it to you for free. If you're an APRN or a PA, just go to our website down here, melnic.com, and fill out the salary survey, and you will receive it for free. And hiring managers, I'll send it to you for free. But through our salary guide, we found that salaries are going up on average 2 to 3% a year, with the exception of PA First Assist, Psych Mental Health MPs, and CRNAs. They're going up at closer to 8% annually. And that's because there is a high demand for PA First Assist and CRNAs within the hospital because of the cost savings. PA First Assist and CRNAs both eliminate the need for a physician in those roles, and so the cost difference supports the salaries. PA First Assist starts quite low or compared to where they end up once they have experience, because there's a fairly steep learning curve, and so then those salaries go up at a much higher rate. The psych mental health nurse practitioners are in a much higher demand because they're finally being reimbursed more appropriately for their services, and they're incredibly valuable to our society. And so retention and recruitment have an incredible impact when you make market adjustments, when you offer a competitive salary survey, when you have annual increases, and if you have a consistent equity strategy. So here's, based on the Melnic salary survey, here's the actual breakdown of increases that we're seeing based on each role. And this is a look at total compensation, so salary plus benefits. So if you were to look at a salary of $90,000 and took benefits as 20% of total compensation, then you would have a salary of $112,500. If you had total benefits of 25% of compensation, it'd be $120,000, and 30% would be $128,000. So this gives you a gauge of the value of total compensation. So even though we're focusing on salary, benefits do have a huge impact on the value you're providing your employees. So communicating that to the employee, make sure they're completely clear on the benefits you offer is really important. And if you don't offer all the benefits, it's important to provide a higher salary for them to find those benefits on their own. According to our salary survey, here's a breakdown of benefits. So 75% have a 401k or 403B. 84% have an average retirement funds matched by the employer of around $9,000. 11% have $10,000 to $20,000. 5% are matched at greater than $20,000. 59% receive an annual salary increase. 78% receive funds from continuing education, and the continuing education funds range from $500 to $25,000. with 40% receiving $1,500 to $2,500 on average, about $2,000, 13% receiving $500 to $1,000, and 11% received between $3,000 and $5,000. 71% received healthcare benefits. 78% received life and disability. 28% had protected time, so that's less than 40 hours a week scheduled for the APPs to be involved in research, education, quality improvement projects, or maybe some of it in charting. 38% have some sort of funds for, some tuition funds for higher education. Additional benefits to consider would be licensing for RN, APRN, PA, or DEA, or certifications. If you're hiring, additional benefits would be relocation, sign-on bonus, or a loan for education reimbursement. So for organizations that have an equity policy, meaning that you wouldn't pay someone who is joining a unit with the same, acuity level and schedule more if they have less experience than someone who's already there. So, so salaries are going to be incrementally lower according to your salary process for someone with less experience than someone who's there with more experience. And the benefit to the organization to have a strict equity policy means that the APPs feel more valued, or the opposite, they wouldn't feel valued, and it does create dissension among the team. And this ultimately leads to turnover, disengagement, or both. So annual increases in equity, an example would be if you pay a new grad $105,000 to work with another APP who has been in the role 2 years and received $100,000 when they started, and they haven't received any salary increases. So you've now suddenly devalued the APP. If you normally say would have given 2% annual increase, you've devalued them by $4,000, plus you would need to add the 5% market rate adjustment that you've applied to this new grad. So you would, an equity salary would be $109,000. So you have, as an organization, two questions to answer. One, are you willing to lose this more experienced person because to hire this new grad at a higher salary, and then maybe even not make the hire because they would recognize that you don't provide annual increases and you don't provide equity. And do you think you're right in that 105, a 5% increase over where you were at 2 years ago? Meaning that probably you either believe you haven't been doing market adjustments and you try and make it up with your new grads, or you're just paying them too much to try and be competitive because you don't really have an intentional salary process. So those are really important things to make decisions about when you're hiring. Also, how equity policy and market adjustments have an impact. So if your organization does provide an annual increase of 2% a year, and you have an equity policy, and you provide a market adjustment every 3 years, then your current APP, who started at $100,000 2 years ago, would be at $104,000. And then the new hire would be hired at $100,000. Then in a year, they would each go up 2%, so that the current APP would be at 106 and the new grad would be at 102. And say that was the end of year 3 when you were going to do your market adjustment. Each of them would receive an additional 1% or approximately $1,000. And this is a great way or example of how you apply annual increases, an equity policy, and market adjustments. So the impact of market adjustments is to know that you have competitive starting salaries to begin with. So did the person who received $100,000, was that competitive at the time? And you only know this if you have a regular policy of doing market adjustment. It's this organization who plans to make, say, every 3-year market adjustment and finds that it's a 1% deficit. So they provided 2% a year, but say you found out that it was actually 3% that you should have been giving a year. Then 1% annual salary increase creates approximately, actually it's $300,000 accumulated salary debt per 100 APPs at the end of 3 years. And I'll show you the math in a minute. Organizations such as this one optimize starting salaries, salary increases, anticipate market adjustments, and other factors can create a highly engaged, patient-focused culture because you can attract and retain high-quality APPs. And this is how the math works. So if you have $100,000 starting salary, it goes up 2% a year. In 14 years, you're going to be at $131,000. Now, there are market caps that organizations put in place, but that's a different conversation. If you found that you were actually needed to make a 1% adjustment per year so that the annual increases actually were 3% at the market, then you'd be accumulating $1,000 approximately per year per APP. And so the accumulated debt, first year is $1,000, next year is $2,000, next year is $3,000. So for 100 APPs in 3 years, that's $300,000. 200 APPs, it's 600, 300, it's 900, close to $1 million. So it's important to make this calculation and plan for these market adjustments and how often you want to do them and how they fit into your budget. When you create a salary-based recruitment and retention strategy, you can create a very intentional structure like we've talked about. It helps your employees feel secure and valued. It's a selling point for recruitment and retention. It makes you very competitive. It's actually easier to tell someone, yes, we're offering you a lower salary, but we have an equity policy so that you know that we won't bring in someone higher. You can actually, people will actually accept a lower salary if you offer a really good role, and in particular, if you have a good benefits package. Knowing that you do market adjustments and you are working on making the salaries more competitive. You can help employees feel valued and increase engagement. And this leads to better patient care and better patient satisfaction and job satisfaction. You also have to look at the cost of turnover. So if you don't have an intentional policy, there's an incredible cost to APP turnover. In general, the cost is 2 times total compensation. So you have to look back at our total compensation numbers, but remember we came up with that number of compensation at 100,000 total compensation was 142,000 times 2 is 285,000. Some people would argue it's even higher. This is because it can take 4 months, 6 months to train to get a new grad APP up and running. It can take a PA a little longer. Doesn't mean you shouldn't hire PAs. They just have a different background, maybe not the same RN type of background. And so you're looking at a turnover of $285,000, maybe $300,000 is your cost of not putting in this type of policy. Much, much higher than putting in a market adjustment policy as well as equity and providing annual increases. So that's what I wanted to share with you. If you have any questions, please email me. I'd love to talk with you. And thank you for joining me today.